Sri Dharman, duties of women, Bhagavad Dharman, the acts of the devotees, Samasa, generally, Vyasa, explicitly, Yogataha, by means of. Translation and purport by Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada. He then explained by divisions, acts of charity, the pragmatic activities of a king, and activities for salvation. Then he described the duties of women and devotees, both briefly and extensively. Please repeat the translation. He then explained by divisions, acts of charity, the pragmatic activities of a king, and activities for salvation. Then he described the duties of women and devotees, both briefly and extensively. Purport, little bigger, 2 pages. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. To give charity is one of the householder's main functions, and he should be prepared to give in charity at least 50% of his hard-earned money. A brahmachari or a student should perform sacrifices, a householder should give charity, and a person in the retired life or in the renounced order should practice penances and austerities. Those are the general functions of all the ashramas or orders of life on the path of self-realization. In the brahmachari life, the training is sufficiently imparted so that one may understand that the world as property belongs to the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. No one therefore can claim to be the proprietor of anything in the world. Therefore, in the life of a householder, which is a sort of license for sense enjoyment, one must give in charity for the service of the Lord. Everyone's energy is generated or borrowed from the reservoir of energy of the Lord. Therefore, the resultant actions of such energy must be given to the Lord in the shape of transcendental loving service for Him. As the rivers draw water from the sea through the clouds and again go down to the sea, similarly, our energy is borrowed from the Supreme Source, the Lord's energy, and it must return to the Lord. That is the perfection of our energy. The Lord, therefore, in Bhagavad Gita says that whatever we do, whatever we undergo as penance, whatever we sacrifice, whatever we eat, and whatever we give in charity, must be offered to Him, the Lord. That is the way of utilizing our borrowed energy. When our energy is utilized in that way, our energy is purified from the contamination of material inebrities, and thus we become fit for our original natural life of service to the Lord. Rajadharma is a great science, unlike modern diplomacy for political supremacy. The kings were trained systematically to become munificent and not merely be tax collectors. They were trained to perform different sacrifices only for the prosperity of the subjects. To lead the prajas to the attainment of salvation was a great duty of the king. The father, the spiritual master, and the king are not to become irresponsible in matter of leading their subjects to the path of ultimate liberation from birth, death, disease, and old age. When these primary duties are properly discharged, there is no need of government of the people, by the people. In modern days, the people in general occupy the administration by the strength of manipulated votes, but they are never trained in the primary duties of the king, and that is also not possible for everyone. Under the circumstances, the untrained administrator play havoc to make the subjects happy in all respects. On the other hand, these untrained administrators gradually become rogues and thieves and increase the taxation to finance a top-heavy administration that is useless for all purposes. Actually, the qualified brahmanas are meant to give direction to the kings for proper administration in terms of the scriptures, like the Manu Samhita and Dharma Shastras of Parashara. A typical king is the ideal of the people in general, and if the king is pious, religious, chivalrous, and munificent, the citizens generally follow him. Such a king is not lazy, sensuous person living at the cost of the subjects, but alert always to kill the thieves and dacoits. The pious kings were not merciful to dacoits and thieves in the name of nonsensical ahimsa, non-violence. The thieves and dacoits were punished in an exemplary way so that in the future no one would dare commit such nuisances in an organized form. Such thieves and dacoits were never meant for administration as they are now. The taxation law was simple. There was no force, no encroachment. The king had a right to take 1/4 of the production made by the subject. The king had a right to claim 1/4 of one's allotted wealth. One would never grudge parting with it because due to the pious king and religious harmony, there was enough natural wealth, namely grains, fruits, flowers, silk, cotton, milk, jewels, minerals, and so on. And therefore, no one was material unhappy. The citizens were rich in agriculture and animal husbandry, and therefore they had enough grains, fruits, and milk without any artificial needs of soaps and toilets, cinemas and bars. The king had to see that the natural reserved energy of humanity was properly utilized. Human energy is meant not exactly for fulfilling animal propensities, but for self-realization. The whole government was specifically designed to fulfill this particular purpose. As such, the king had to select properly the cabinet ministers, but not on the strength of voting background. The ministers, the military commanders, and even the ordinary soldiers were all selected by personal qualification, and the king had to supervise them properly before they were appointed to their respective posts. The king was especially vigilant to see that the tapasvis, or people who sacrifice everything for disseminating spiritual knowledge, were never disregarded. The king knew well that the Supreme Personality of Godhead never tolerates any insults to his unalloyed devotees. Such tapasvis were trusted leaders even of the rogues and thieves, who would never disobey the orders of tapasvis. The king would give special protection to illiterates, the helpless, and the widows of the state. Defense measures were arranged previous to any attack by the enemies. The taxing process was easy, and it was not meant for squandering, but was for strengthening the reserve fund. The soldiers were recruited from all parts of the world, and they were trained for special duties. As far as salvation is concerned, one has to conquer the principles of lust, anger, and unlawful desires, avarice, and bewilderment. To get freedom from anger, one should learn how to forgive. To be free from unlawful desires, one should not make plans. By spiritual culture, one is able to conquer sleep. By tolerance, one can conquer desires and avarice. Disturbances from various diseases can be avoided by regulated diets. By self-control, one can be free from false hopes, and money can be saved by avoiding undesirable association. By practice of yoga, one can control hunger, and worldliness can be avoided by culturing the knowledge of impermanence. Dizziness can be conquered by rising up, and false arguments can be conquered by factual ascertainment. Talkativeness can be avoided by gravity and silence, and by prowess one can avoid fearfulness. Perfect knowledge can be obtained by self-cultivation. One must be free from lust, avarice, anger, dreaming to actually attain the path of salvation. As far as the women class are concerned, they are accepted as a power of inspiration for men. As such, women are more powerful than men. Mighty Julius Caesar was conquered by a Cleopatra. Such powerful women are controlled by shyness. Therefore, shyness is important for women. Once this control valve is loosened, women can create havoc in the society by adultery. Adultery means production of unwanted children known as Varna Shankaras, who disturb the world. The last item taught by Bhishma Deva was the process of pleasing the Lord. We are all eternal servants of the Lord, and when we forget this essential part of our nature, we are put into this material condition of life. The simple process of pleasing the Lord for the householders especially is to install the deity of the Lord at home. By concentrating on the deity, one may progressively go on with the daily routine work. Worshipping the deity at home, serving the devotee, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, residing in a holy place and chanting the holy name of the Lord are all inexpensive items by which one can please the Lord. Thus the subject matter was explained by the grandfather to his grandchildren. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So continuation of Bhishma Deva's teachings to Yudhishthira. Last verse we saw certain subjects being discussed. Now many more topics were discussed there. It says Dana Dharman, Raja Dharman, the acts of charity and the duties of a king. Moksha Dharman Vibhagashaha, with all specific decisions regarding liberation. Stri Dharman, Bhagavad Dharman, and duties of women and of the devotees. Samasa Vyasa Yogataha, everything was described in detail and elaborately, systematically. So many topics were covered, a huge purport with the various points. So first thing is acts of charity. Recognize the proprietorship of the Lord and use all borrowed energy in His service. That's the primary point. Because everything is emanating from the Lord, everything has to be utilized in the service of the Lord. Charity to give, who are we to give charity to the Lord? So we are just managing the resources. Because before we came, the resources were there. After we go, the resources were there. Temporarily, we are holding on to them, claiming that I am the owner of the resources. But Ishavasham idam sarvam. Shastra say everything belongs to the Lord. So everything has to be utilized in the service of the Lord. So charity is offering the items back in the service of the Lord. Then Rajadharman are pragmatic activities of a king to set up the system for the material and spiritual welfare of the citizens. The king has to see that everybody in his kingdom follow the systematic rules and divisions. So that materially everybody will advance and systematically everybody will be on the process of back home, back to God. Spiritual elevation also. Then activities of salvation are meant to guide everybody to go back home, back to Godhead. Because materially in the world, everybody are working in these four dharmas, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. To live in a religious way, to earn through those religious activities, to spend little for sense gratification, little for family maintenance, little for service of the Lord, charity, everything and all. And finally, aspire for liberation. Now, how to work in the direction of liberation are specific directions mentioned here. Then duties of women, how if women are not controlled or not given proper protection, it can destroy the society is mentioned. The glories of women are also mentioned. Then duties of devotees, how to please the Lord by serving the devotees. So various topics have been given. We will try to finish within the limited time. So the duties of a king, as mentioned in Mahabharata and in various Vedic scriptures. The king must conquer his enemies and rule his kingdom well according to the dictates of Dharma. A maker of garlands plucks flowers from a tree, but he never uproots the tree or destroys it. He only just plucks the flowers. So similarly, the king will tax his subjects, but the rate of taxation should not be so high as to pauperize his subjects. So how much tax it has to be implemented? The purport Prabhupada is saying 25% is a tax. So 3/4 goes to the producer and 25% by default goes to the king. If your production is ample enough. If there is no production, there is no tax. If by chance there is a famine or there is some flood, overflooding, and you have no production, you need not pay tax to the government. Only when there is ample production, you have to pay tax. A systematic rule. The king will worship the Vishnu and serve the cause of cattle and brahmanas. He must not squander away with the wealth on idle pursuits. So these are the duties, line by line. He has to serve Vishnu, he has to take care of, give protection to the brahmanas, to the cows, to the cattle, because they are the resources for the state. One is intellectual resources, one is the financial resources. You have to take care of them both. Then whatever money comes to the treasury, can he use for his sense gratification? No. He cannot use for his personal sense gratification or simply on some projects which are of no use. No idle pursuits. The king must treat his subjects as his own children. Because the king is like a father of the state, all the children in that, all the people in that state belongs to him as children. He has to treat them as children. He must choose priests, ministers and servants who are wise, good and faithful. The people who associate with him, the people who serve with him should be wise, good and faithful. Some qualifications of his attendants. Otherwise the kingdom is sure to go to destruction. Because wrong minister can deploy the king back and take over the kingdom and destroy the whole serenity of the kingdom. Many things can happen. So he should be a wise person who should guide the king at appropriate circumstances. He should be good so that he will be able to support the duties of the king, and he should be faithful person so that the king can rely on his, like king does not do all the activities, ministers have to execute the tax activities. So if they are faithful, then the king's instructions can be implemented in a very nicely. The king must not get disturbed if there is danger. He must face up to the adversity with fortitude and placidity. The dangers will pass. The moon vanishes during an eclipse, but it does not mean it does not appear again. So circumstances, testing circumstances will always be there. The king has to hold on. He should not give up his enthusiasm and he should not become morose and he should sit in a corner and cry. No, he has to face the situation. A king should never lie and he should never treat his servants insolently. So he has to take responsibility. He should not speak lies. He should not treat his servants unnecessarily, treating them in a very low manner. Servants are not happy if they are scolded at all the time. So, see, when somebody does a mistake, scolding is done. When somebody does good, we have to appreciate their good. So, not that all the time we keep scolding, then people will react in a reverse way. There are 6 traits that one should look for in a king. What are the 6 traits? These are initiative, bravery, patience, intelligence, strength and valor. These are the 6 things a king should possess in full. Extreme care must be taken to ensure that the right individuals are employed as ministers, guards, priests and physicians. So while deploying the personal army, he has to be very extremely careful. If a spy from an opposite country is there, that's it, the kingdom is gone. So he has to be very careful. Thorough background check has to happen. If somebody is there as a cook who is from an enemy camp, he can mix poison, that's it, gone. King is gone. So he has to be very careful. Practicality, this is how Shastra is saying. Then, Manu Samhita describes how a king or a ruler should receives one, generally it is said, the king has to see all his subjects are properly engaged. And he should not discriminate among divisions of people. Like current day administrators, he may be belonging to one particular caste, but when he is sitting on that post, he should not discriminate between various castes, various religions and all. If he is pro to one particular caste and he degrades another particular caste, he becomes liable. And if he sees that people are not following the religious principles, he becomes liable for the sinful activities of the citizens. If people do pious activities, then he will share 1/6 of the pious activities of the citizens. And if people are not controlled in doing that mischievous activities and the king is silent, then he has to bear the sinful activities, 1/6 of the public, the king has to suffer. In addition, you will have famine, drought, all the excessive or shortage. Ativrishti, anavrishti can happen. Ativrishti means everything in excess, everything will be destroyed. Anavrishti means shortage of the things. Either way it could be possible. So if the king is not responsible person, the king also has to suffer, the entire citizens has to suffer, the entire kingdom has to suffer. This is what Manu Samhita said. Then what does Ramayana say about the administrator of a king? The ruler of the people to watch over or patrol over his territory to make sure that all unfairness, criminal activities or unrighteous activities are immediately put to a stop. So no nonsense activity should be there in his kingdom. This is because all such actions produce contrary reactions, not only for the people and the country, but also for the ruler. The same thing, whatever we have discussed, the same point. This is what Valmiki Ramayana is also saying, duties of a king. So Uttarakanda says, whenever one performs unrighteous deeds not to be performed and rooted in lack of prosperity, such a person indeed goes to hell. However, the king also undoubtedly goes to hell. If some mistake was done by a citizen and the king has not controlled him, the citizen anyhow goes to hell and the king also goes to hell. So that strict is administrative rule. So we all know that great Roman Empire. So 5 reasons why Roman Empire failed were mentioned. Jai Shri Shri Radha Govindaki. There was a love of show and luxury. Everyone was eager to acquire material things as a sign of affluence. So everybody want to show off in the world artificially. Everybody were hankering for material positions, for display, first reason. This also helped the cause, the second factor, which was widening gap between very rich and very poor with the disappearance of middle class. So in a society there will always be poor, middle class and richer. But because of this accumulation, the rich remained rich and all the other people became poor. There is a wide gap between various sections in the society. The third factor was a complete obsession with sex. When there is too much money, sense gratification is the next destination. The fourth factor was freakiness and abandonment in the arts which masqueraded and pretended to be originality. So people started cheating. Cheating tendency became prominent. And misutilization of money started happening. Luxury is there. Next generation kid, they don't know what to do. They simply spend. So misutilization was there and cheating tendencies became. Next. The fifth factor was the creation of welfare state and the increasing desire among the people to live off the government. So people were simply like leeches. They were simply bugging off the government to extract more and more without any work. Because of this, the great Roman Empire fell down. This is one example how a king not taken proper responsibility and who started working towards material sense gratification, an entire kingdom can fall down, which is in modern history. Like in Vedic times, kings were trained, administrators were trained. They are like self-proficient men. They are trained with all kinds of knowledge. Like Bhishma Deva, he is a king. He is a Kshatriya who is teaching all these subjects. He is such a perfect personality, he is guiding the next king. Emperor he is training, not just king, he is training the emperor, Yudhishthira Maharaj. So that he becomes fully equipped with the knowledge, so that he can rule his kingdom in a very prosperous way and very spiritual perspectives. Both are maintained. Materially, opulences were there, and spiritually everybody will be on the path back home, back to God. That was the whole intention of training Yudhishthira Maharaj. Next, regarding acts of charity, what Shastra says, Rigveda says, Dakshanavanto amrutam bhajante, Dakshanavantaha pra tiranta ayuhu. Those who give dana relish immortality, and those who engage in dana live a long life. Yad dadasi vishishtebhyo, yad chashnasi dine dine, tatte vittam aham manye, shesham anyasya rakshasi. Whatever you give as dana to people worthy of charity. See, to give dana to people worthy of charity, not apatra dana. Unqualified person is never given dana. Charity should be given to a qualified person. And whatever you consume yourself, these two are your actual wealth. Whatever you keep for yourself and whatever you keep for your charity, these two are your actual wealth. Every other wealth is being maintained by you for someone else. You are earning so that somebody else will enjoy. You are not, whatever you do dana and whatever you consume for yourself is your actual wealth which will come to you. Whatever papa, whatever punya comes with you. Whatever you accumulate will go for somebody else's maintenance. Anukule vidodheyam yata purayita harihi pratikule vidodheyam yata sarvam harishyati. Give dana in favorable situations, for it is Lord Hari who provides us everything. Give dana in unfavorable situations, for it is same Hari who takes everything away. When you are happy, give dana. When you are distressed, give dana. Because it is Hari who is providing you, it is Hari who is taking away. This is the Vedic instruction. Means celebrate your occasion. From birth to death, charity is a must. In happiness, when somebody takes birth in your family, you give charity. When somebody passes in your family, you have to give charity. That is the concept. The context-wise it is. Your happiness you share with others by charity. You distress you share with others by charity. Then Shastra says there are 16 Shodasha Dana as a Grihastha has to perform. The following 16 ingredients are offered. Bhudana, land, asana, water, cloth, ghee, rice, betel nuts, umbrella, sandalwood paste, flower garlands, fruits, bedding, shoes, cows, gold and silver. These are 16 varieties of items to be offered in charity. Like in summer, many people will come and give water pots dana. In rainy season, they will come and give you umbrella dana. In winter season, they will come and give you blankets dana. These are one of the kinds of dana according to the season. For brahmacharis, they give shoes as dana. For the sannyasis, they give pita, asana as dana. For family, for brahmanas, for family men, they give food ingredients as dana. So these are the various ways. For temples, they give bhudana, land, godana, cows, hiranyadana, gold, rajatadana, silver, because they are all used for the jewelry of the Lord. They become asset for the deity. In this way, these 16 varieties of dana, primary are there some, secondary are some. So it is must for a grihastha to be performed in his lifetime. Again in dana there are three categories. There is bhiksha, the act of giving alms. There is paropakara, the act of generosity. And there is dakshina, a gift given without expecting anything in return. Charity has three grades: bhiksha, paropakara and dakshina. A selfless act like charity is important because it helps in reducing attachment to the material world. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, yajna dana tapak karma pavanani manishinam. People should never abandon these four activities: yajna, dana, tapaha, karma. Sacrifice is a must, charity is a must, austerity is a must, and activities are a must. For pavanani manishinam, they purify even men. Everybody becomes purified by this process. So charity is a must, one of the activity. Not only it leads to peace of mind, but also gives the soul transcendental joy, which is essential for attaining salvation. So when they give charity, people become very joyful. It's happiness. Sharing is often the first step towards giving. Sharing prepares the soul for the act of letting go or giving up the ego. See, proprietorship means holding on, it belongs to me. When you start giving charity, you start renouncing the material world. The hard-earned wealth, when the living entity starts renouncing, he becomes detached from this material world. He is en route to his liberation. That's why charity is a must. From feeding the hungry to donating alms to the poor, every single act of kindness is important. Because society, every category of people are there. So everybody have to take responsibility so that the haves should share with the have-nots. In that way, the society is not deprived. So Narada Muni explains to Arjuna about this charity in Shastras. He says, Dana has two hetus, two varieties. It has 6 adhishtanas or 6 reasons why charity has to be done. There are 6 ankas or parties whom dana has to be given. There are 2 parinamas, end results or fruits dana can happen. There are 3 Vedas or classifications in dana, and there are 3 vinasa sadhanas or negative results when you give dana. What are these? The 2 reasons are normally perceived about the size of the charity, small or big. Charity capacity is big charity, small charity. And also of the quality. Good quality, bad quality charity of. And again, dana dana or charity of money is more popular than vastu dana or charity of material or vastra dana or charity of clothes. Because by money we can purchase vastu, we can purchase vastra. But the other 2 you cannot purchase money. So money dana is considered as supreme. Then the 6 adhishtanas or 6 reasons for charity are dharma dana without strings attached, dana given to virtuous and pure devotees, that is called as dharma dana. Artha dana is keeping in view of some purpose or utility. Kama dana are supporting the favors of women. Women, wine are such benefits in view. Laja dana is due to compulsions of public or society. Harsha dana is made on receiving good news and out of happiness. Like earlier we used to see when the king was given, my dear sir, you have a son. He immediately gives his jewelry to the person who has bought that news. Out of happiness, harsha dana this is. And bhaya dana, out of compulsion. Somebody is putting a sword here and says, unless you give charity, I am going to cut off your head. Now current day, politicians, unless you give money, we will seize your government or we will seize your company or something like that. There are many ways how bhaya dana can happen. So these are the 6 ways how dana can happen. Then there are 6 parties in receiving this dana. The positive donors are datas by nature. There are pure devotees, there are dharmatmas, are the virtuous people. And those desirous of donating willingly and happily are those who are devoid of bad habits, vyasana rahitaha. Pavitra are a symbol of purity, and anindeya are who are blemishless. Charity should be given to highly qualified people. They are like dharmatmas, then those who are donating out of willingly and happily, then vyasana rahitaha, then there are pavitra, then anindaneya, and all these things. Then there are negative donors who are ill-mannered, indolent, evil-minded, persons of bad habits, persons who swear to support the evil, and persons who are sleepy. These are all negative donors. You should not give charity to these negative people. Among the good receivers of charity are those who are good kula, sat kula, or who has vidya, somebody for education, who is qualified, who has no money, who wants to study towards education, or good achar, one who has sampradaya, good sampradaya, earners by rightful way of life, somebody who is hard working in his life, or of kind hearted people, or those who are jitendriya, those who are able to control his senses. And finally, those who are excellent parenthood. These are the people who are good charitable receivers. The secondary category of receivers of donation are pleasant visage of sincerity and thankfulness, but not of demanding nature. Then it goes on many other perspectives. Then the duties of a woman, the third subject. What Shastra says at various places, this about a chaste woman is always busy performing activities in the interest of her husband, would deliver 100 generations from her paternal side as her maternal side. Pativratyam is given a highest perspective. Like in Bhagavatam says, the main reason for the death of Kauravas was they tried to disturb Pativrata lady Draupadi Devi. Just by disturbing them, it is, Bhagavatam says, it is Akala Mrityu has come to Kauravas. Akala Mrityu means they are not destined to die at that particular time because of disrespecting the chaste woman. They lost their life in before time itself. Akala Mrityu. So chastity is given a higher projection. Women are considered the source of energy, the source of power. Wherever the feet of a chaste woman touches, the land becomes remover of sins and supremely pure. If they roam around, by their chastity, the entire area becomes rich. Just as body becomes pure by bathing in Ganges, similarly everything of a person becomes pure just by taking sight of a pure chaste woman. So we become pure just by darshan of a pure sadhvi. Woman attained the Lord's abode by her chastity and service to her husband. This kind of destiny is never achieved by any other process. The woman, how they can go back home back to Godhead is simply by their chastity and service to the Lord. They can just go back home back to Godhead. A woman should remain always happy and smiling and be an expert in doing household works. She should be an expert in the knowledge of all the paraphernalia and be economical in spending money. Because finances, husband earns and hands over the money to the wife. Now, wife has to take care of the responsibility. See that economically everything is there and all the paraphernalia are properly utilized. Whether the husband is bereft of good conduct, lusty and devoid of good qualities, a chaste woman should serve her husband like a demigod. Once a marriage is done, she should never forsake her husband. She should try to see that he is taken care of, and by her good character she can influence him and change that personality, even though he may be of very bad acquaintance. By the association of women, the desire, what is the problem? Why women are also has to be protected? What happens if they are not protected? By association of women, the desire for material sense gratification arises in the mind, and by that one's renunciation gets destroyed. And due to lack of renunciation, one becomes devoid of sublime austerities. Great sages should not associate with women because the root for desire for material sense gratification is the destroyer of spiritual knowledge and renunciation. So, sages, brahmacharis, they are not to associate with women. See, it is not that we are disrespecting, this is for their protection. A woman who abuses her mother-in-law and father-in-law and always does quarrels with his husband becomes a leech in the next life. So Shastras also give glorification, Shastras also give precautions. If you do not follow, we become leech. And a woman who is condemner of her husband or who admonishes or chides her husband becomes a louse. So respect is not given. If you disrespect a woman, we lose our credentials. And if a woman disrespects her husbands and superiors, she loses her credentials. So danger is there at every step. The 6 things which pollute the woman are drinking liquor, association of wicked ones, living away from husband, roaming independently, taking more sleep and living in others' house. These disqualify the woman from their true qualities. So Shastras recommend these things are which pollute women, which we have to protect them. See, when you have a most valuable thing, will you leave it open or will you protect it? Will you leave it open or protect it? So women are our most valuable thing. Stri Ratna they are considered. Women in the form of a jewel, they have to be given protection. That's what Shastra says. They should not be left open. In that context, all these Vedic examples are there as explained in Mahabharata. Then last one, duties of a Vaishnava or glories of Vaishnava, because by associating with them, devotees can become liberated. The Vaishnavas are not subjected to fruits of karma. Karma is not a principle in Vaishnava's limitation. They are highly respected by the demigods, including Yamaraja, and are not subjected to their punishment. Even Yamaraja, when he is instructing Yamadutas, he says, don't go to Vaishnavas. They are not under my jurisdiction. Either taking in birth or in going away from this material world, even Brahma says, they are not limited by me. I do not create them, I do not write their destiny. They are directly from the Supreme Lord's associates. They will be personally be taken care by the Supreme Lord. Even Brahma is saying that aspect. A Vaishnava is not an ordinary human being and is more powerful than Brahmanas or the demigods. They are a special type of incarnation of the Lord and hence they do not enjoy their fruits of karma. They appear by the will of the Supreme Lord and simply for the interest of the people of this world. They are the topmost ideal and are worshipable by all. A Vaishnava is highly respected and is worshipped even by the demigods. Unless a gross materialist smears the dust of the lotus feet of a Vaishnava upon his head, such a person cannot become completely freed from the material disease. What is that shloka? Padaraja Abhishekam. Nishkinchananam yavat. Mahiyasham Padarajobhishekam. Nishkinchananam Navrinicha yavat. Yesterday also Prabhu was saying about Jadavarta and King Rahugana. Rahugana did not know that Jadavarta was a great personality. He was scolding him because he was not carrying the palanquin properly. As soon as Jadavarta put one question, Rahugana came down from his palanquin and immediately paid obeisances and requested him, please forgive me, you are such a great personality. I had offended you by verbally, by scolding you. Unless you give the dust of your lotus feet, I will not be liberated. So even the any category of person, unless we take the dust of the lotus feet of a great personality like Vaishnavas, like Prabhupada, we cannot become liberated from this material world. This is what Shastras are saying. The unalloyed devotees of the Lord know the glories of the Lord in the sense that they can understand how great the Lord is and how great His expansions of diverse energies. Because they know maximum about the Lord. Nobody can know about the Lord in full. Only devotees can know because Lord reveals to them to the maximum capacity. The Lord has unlimited number of transcendental qualities and one of them is His affection for His unalloyed devotees. Lord is known as Bhakta Vatsala. Who can bring the incarnation to this material world? Can anybody decide and bring? Unless a pure devotee desires, the Lord will fulfill that desire. Prahlada desired to see that form of the Lord. Lord came as Narasimha to kill Hiranyakashipu. Like that, when devotees desire, Lord fulfills their desire by coming to this material world. Like we can carve a deity. Can we bring Supreme Lord into the deity? Only Acharya can invite the Lord into the deity. Great unalloyed devotees of the Lord are compassionate towards the fallen and therefore they travel all over the world with the mission of bringing souls back home, back to Godhead. They are known as Parivirajikacharya. They simply keep roaming around to give opportunity for people in general to associate with them so that they become liberated from these material attachments. The special mercy for the unalloyed devotee is that the Lord saves him from hard labor to achieve the results of dharma, artha, kama, moksha. He need not aspire for any of these things. Even liberation he did not automatically aspire. Liberation is standing at his doorstep with folded hands, saying, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, and samaya pratiksha. She is saying, how can I serve you? When liberation is standing there with folded hands, what to speak of material things? An unalloyed devotee is never disturbed by any kind of trying circumstances. Circumstances might come, but his faith in the Lord will not waver. Material circumstances, Maya cannot disturb him. If one becomes an unalloyed devotee of the Lord, he automatically manifests all good qualities. So he, being the representative of the Lord, he will attract everyone by all his good qualities. So these are some of the glorification. That's a huge subject. Entire Bhagavatam is glorification of devotees and the Supreme Lord. By associating with them, we become purified by all of our material tendencies, and we become qualified to understand about the Lord, and we become qualified of going back home, back to God. So the subject again still continues. 2 more verses are there which talk about all these dharma. We'll understand more about in the next classes. I'll stop here. Any questions or doubts?
Can change the husband also if she is very chaste and she follows her regulations. Any example is there, Prabhu, for this? The husband is not like good and he got changed.
So what is that story of that lady who stopped the sun? Satyavati? Husband was inclined towards going to a prostitute. So wife took him to the prostitute to serve his desire. While coming back, she was carrying him in a basket. Sati Savitri, I think Sati Savitri. So the husband, while he was sitting on the basket, there was one Rishi who was hanging from a tree. That Rishi who had offended Mandukya Muni, who had that sword placed inside his body, he cannot sit because that Yamaraja had given a punishment. That one sword has punished from his top to bottom. He was hanging from the tree. Mandukya Muni. So at that time, the Sati Savitri's husband, when he was coming, his head touched his feet. And because of the disturbance, there was pain in his body. That sage cursed him, tomorrow morning, this is in the night time happened, tomorrow morning as the sun rises, your husband will die. Then Sati Savitri, she went into such a tapasya that for next few days, sunrise never happened. All the devatas were worried. Sunlight is not there. Sun is like Raja Samasta Saramurti Rashesha Tejaha. Unless Raja comes, kingdom will not proceed. Nobody is able to wake up. Nobody is able to do their Kalakritya. And nobody is able to do no crops. Nothing is happening. The entire universe came to a standstill because sunrise was not happening. Because of her chastity, she was able to control. Then the Supreme Lord himself comes and says, your husband is protected. On the assurance, then one more Anasuya, she comes and she also gives the benediction that your husband is taken care of. Then she withdraws that capacity, then sun rises back and all the demigods will come and beg forgiveness. So by her character, when the husband is seeing, she had changed to a great personality again. Like that, many Vedic examples were there. Okay. Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanand.